I was meant to get married on the 1st of February, which was mine and my ex-fiance's anniversary. We ended the engagement shortly after the new year because he cheated on me. The wedding was initially planned with just my money, but was very low-key, and my parents asked if they could put up some additional money to make the whole thing a bit bigger. By the end, about 60% of the wedding was paid for by me and 40% by my parents' contribution. My ex and I agreed that I would pay for the wedding while he covered the honeymoon. My ex left me to deal with canceling the wedding as his money wasn't involved, and I turned to my mother and sister for help because I didn't have the mental or emotional capacity to call vendors and venues and whatever else and cancel everything. My sister is engaged and helped me with a lot of wedding planning. Next thing I know, my mother and sister are asking me if I wouldn't mind if my sister just takes my wedding. Every part of it, from the venue to the cake, and everything in between. The sole difference will be the wedding dress, and even then, she says if she can't buy off the rack, she might have to get mine tailored to fit her instead. I called off my engagement less than 3 weeks ago. I am a ducking mess. I reached out to my family to help me cancel the wedding, and my sister is planning to take it over instead. My sister has rung round our family explaining that she's taking over before she told me this. They are all attending. Her fiancé has contacted his family and given them the date he will be getting married. I found all this out today. She asked me if I was okay with this, like she hadn't already arranged everything. I told her to go duck herself. I have until the 23rd to cancel things and get the money back. There's a couple of things where I won't get money back at this stage, but over 2/3 of it is still refundable. The money will be refunded to the card it was paid by, so both me and my parents will get the correct amounts back. Everything is shut right now, but it's the 21st tomorrow. As I've been in contact with these companies and it's my name on all the contracts, I have full power over this wedding. My sister said she'd pay me back eventually, but knowing her, I'll never see that money again. Will I be the idiot if I rung round everything and canceled? Update. I talked to my sister and explained how upset I was and how hurt this made me feel, and she said that this was a good thing, and it would be therapeutic for me to see good come from bad. I said that it is really not what it's feeling like on my end. And to me, it feels like I got cheated on a month before my wedding, and my sister said she would cancel everything for me, and then decided that getting married in my dress in the venue my ex and I picked out together on my anniversary date, and this did not feel good. I said if she wanted to buy the wedding off me, then I needed payment in full for my 60% by the 23rd, and I wanted to switch out our names on the contracts. She said she was hoping for closer to a payment plan, where she paid me back 50% of the 60% I put down in monthly installments over the next 10 months. She wanted to pay me back 5% per month for 10 months, and I still wouldn't get all my money back. I've made calls and canceled everything. Everything was paid for by me, and my parents' money paid primarily for upgrades to the things I'd already bought. The money will be refunded to whoever paid for it, so myself and my parents will get all the correct money back. However, with some, like the caterer, we've lost the deposit entirely. With some, like the venue, they kept part of the money. Average 50%, but some kept more and some kept less. And with some, like the baker who was a family friend and hadn't started the cake yet, they completely refunded it. I think the fact that I was open that the wedding was off because he cheated made them feel bad for me and probably made a few of them more lenient on refunds. Didn't just bring it up for the sake of it. Most of them asked if I wanted to reschedule. On the whole, I've gotten a little over half back, which is not as much as I thought. Really annoying thing is, I put these cancellations through on the 21st, and if I'd done it on the 18th, 2 full weeks notice, I'd have gotten more, but they waited until the 20th to tell me. The dates are now open, the plans are now there. If she wants to rebook everything in her name, she is welcome to. She helped me with a duck ton of planning, knows the details better than I do, and she can easily rebook the exact same thing and will probably be doing the vendors a favor considering how close we are to the big day. Some refunds will be instant, some will take a bit of time, longest is 2 weeks. And I'm no longer going on my honeymoon, so once all the refunds have come through, I might book a week away somewhere. Not sure what's happening with my sister, mother, family at large. In total, I would have gotten back more from my sister than I would from the venues, but it would be a year wait on her repaying me versus a few weeks on the venues. currently drafting a Facebook post to tell the family what happened without me looking like a total B. I have a feeling they've already guessed what went on, but only one way to make sure. Not the idiot. What the duck is wrong with them? I kind of understand the logic, but for duck's sake, there was a way to do this without being a total idiot to you. Depending on your relationship with them, I don't know what your course of action should be, but you would be totally justified based purely on how insensitive they are about this whole mess. Seriously, I assumed the only reason would be if everything was completely non-refundable and they'd be out of tens of thousands of dollars. This, to make her sit through essentially her own wedding, hijacked only weeks after her engagement was destroyed, and when most costs can be recouped, is just utterly heartless. OP, I'm sorry you're going through this. My wife's husband cheated on her and left her 15 years ago. At this time, his daughter was 11 and didn't really understand what had happened. We met 13 years ago and moved in together shortly after. We have a son together and have a happy little family, but her daughter has never accepted me. Even after the troublesome teenage years with the "you're not my real dad" tantrums, she still only ever saw me as the guy that married her mother. Her father got back in contact when she was 18, and she has spent a lot of time bonding with him. I'm not going to force her to accept me as a father and provide support when she needed it. This included paying for her university and living costs so that she could focus on her studies. After she graduated, I bought her a car as a present. There was no word of thanks or even show of affection, and every time she visits her mother, it's talking about her father and what he's done for her lately. I realized a couple of years ago that I would never be accepted by her, and it's best not to bother trying anymore. I'm rather meticulous and download all of my bank statements, as well as make notes of how much money I've spent on things. To date, I've spent just under £49,000 on my stepdaughter since she was 18. This isn't money from a joint account, but rather money I personally have spent, as her mother does not earn much. She's been dating a chap for a while now, and he proposed to her a couple of months ago. Her mother has been ecstatic, and every time she visits us, they're planning the wedding together. My wife is Scandinavian, and they both have their hearts set on a wedding in Norway, which by the looks of it is very expensive. At no point has anyone discussed this wedding with me, nor have they discussed how it's going to be paid for. I only know the cost because I looked up things they were discussing together. Last weekend, my stepdaughter was visiting, and her mother approached me about getting a deposit sent out to the venue they want to hire. The deposit for the venue alone is just over £5,000. I point blank refused. Whilst the amount isn't an issue, I see no reason on spending any further money on someone who has made it clear they want nothing to do with me rather than just pay for things. This led to my stepdaughter blowing up at me, claiming I never gave her a chance, and her mother giving me the silent treatment all week. Not the idiot. That's not a great situation. This probably should have been discussed a bit more clearly with your wife, at least, if not your stepdaughter, at some earlier point. Nonetheless, your stepdaughter treating you like crap while presuming you will continue to shell out large amounts of money well into her adult years certainly is unreasonable. In my family, there are 2 kids, sister and I, and my parents. Christmas was coming up, and I've been wanting a car for about a year now because I've recently gotten my green peas, Australian thing that you can get when you're older than 18. My parents have mentioned in the past the idea of me paying for half and they'll cover the other half of a car under total 10,000 Australian dollars. I can afford this, as I've saved most of the money from the 2 jobs I've kept since I was 14, so no biggie. I've also been relying on my mom to drive me to work for the last 4 years, so it was a smart move on their end rather than driving me the 30 minutes each way every shift I've got. My sister just turned 17, which is when you can get your red peas in Australia. She's never had a job and has no money saved whatsoever. I love her a lot, but she's made some questionable decisions toward her future lately, but that's a separate story. My parents haven't seemed to care as much as they probably should have about these things, and are acting like everything's normal and all good. With Christmas coming up at the time and my birthday in early January, I thought this might be the time my parents get me that car I've wanted for the last year, as they've mentioned this idea for the last couple months. I'm obviously excited the week leading up to Christmas, wondering what type of car they've bought or what they're looking at. I wake up Christmas Day around 10 a.m. to the sound of my younger sister crying, but in a happy way. I'm excited for her, as she's obviously gotten something she's wanted. I walk downstairs and no one's at the Christmas tree, but a present with my name is sitting there. I figure I'll come back to it after I find my parents. Check the front door and it's wide open. Walk out to the driveway to see a brand new blue Hyundai i30 sitting in the driveway with a big ribbon on the front. Around $25,000. My sister is at the side of it crying with my parents' arms around her. I ask who it's for, and my parents tell me her. I probably could have handled this better, but I stormed back into the house, closed the door, and stayed in there for the rest of the day. Didn't go with my family to see everyone else for Christmas because of how annoyed I was. My parents asked me why I did that when they got home. So I asked them why they bought her a car before me, who's older, willing to pay half, had a job, goes to school, and has a stable plan for the future. They don't have an answer to that one, so they just stay quiet, and after a couple of minutes of awkward silence, they walk out. By this point, I'd forgotten about the present they left under the tree downstairs, so I walk down to open it, and it's a new phone case from eBay, something I had no use for. I can't get over what they've done. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Some people are going to comment based on the fact that a new car isn't a gift a teenager should expect. But that's not the issue here. The issue is that your parents showed considerable favoritism toward your sister. You don't know why, and they won't tell you why. That's naturally very upsetting. Your reaction is totally understandable. So understandable that the fact that they asked you why you were upset seems a bit strange. Edit. So, my birthday was 11th of January. My parents were seeming nicer than usual the entire week beforehand, which might have been because they had time off work or they had a surprise. The outcome was somewhere in the middle of what I was expecting, though. On my birthday, they told me that they were sorry for buying my sister a car for Christmas when I deserved one and really needed it more than her. So they told me that they'd given me $10,000 to be able to afford something I'd really like and enjoy taking care of, and also to drive to and from work, to school, university, and everything else. The outcome couldn't have really been much better than this one, especially since they originally said they'd help me with $5,000 toward the car I want. So I'm pretty happy with it. Not gonna complain anymore about the situation. I just hope they stop the favoritism and obvious extra love and support they give my sister all the time. One possibility is that they show favoritism towards your sister because she seems to need more. You're the strong, independent, successful kid, while your sister has issues and is a bit of a mess. Obviously, that's still not fair or okay, but it may not be an issue of we love her more, so much as we think she needs extra help and motivation while you're good to go. Either way, I'm glad this turned out okay, and I hope you get a car you love. Thanks for the update. About 8 years ago, I got a message on Facebook from a teenager asking if I knew her mother back in college, because she might be my kid. Now, after I got over the shock, I messaged her back. We talked a little bit. I paid for a DNA test. Turns out, I have a daughter. We'll call her Jenny. We talked for a little bit. I got to know her stepdad, Jim, and her mom, Tina. One night stand. I didn't even know her last name 25 years ago. And her younger half-siblings. And they're all pretty cool. In particular, cannot praise Jim enough. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Basically, a human teddy bear, this guy. Overall, I'd say Jenny and I have a decent enough relationship. I never married and I don't have any other children, so I've been taking her on vacations with me, and she spent a few holidays at my house. But overall, our relationship is much like that of two adults, rather than a parent and child. She doesn't call me Dad, she calls Jim Dad, and me Matt. I contributed to her college fund, but not as much as Jim and Tina did. And that wasn't a big deal for me because I make a lot more money than they do and have no other kids. Last week, she called me to tell me that her long-term boyfriend proposed and asked me to walk her down the aisle. I told her that I was honored, but that I didn't think it was fair for me to take that moment from Jim, who raised her since she was a toddler, just because we share DNA. She said that she actually wants both of us to walk her down the aisle, one on either side. I told her that I didn't think it was fair to ask him to share that moment either, and that even if Jim said he was okay with it, and I'm sure he would, because Jim wouldn't deny Jenny anything, no matter how much it hurt his feelings. It probably broke his heart for her to ask that, and she said okay and hung up. But she hasn't been as happy to talk to me since. Am I the idiot for saying no, or do I just need to give her some time to adjust? Edit. Last night I called Jenny, apologized for hurting her feelings, and asked her to meet Jim and me for Sunday brunch so that we could talk about and work out how to do this all together. So we'll hopefully come to an amicable solution that makes everyone happy. Edit number 2. Post-brunch update. Sorry this took so long. Brunch ran late. It kind of turned into lunch, and then into the waitress giving us mean looks for hogging a table for so long. But the talk was productive, and I tipped well, so I call this a win. So we all met at the restaurant. Jenny, Jim, Jenny's fiancé, who by coincidence has the same name as me, so we'll call him Other Matt, and me. We beat around the bush for about 20 minutes while we ordered and waited for our food. And then we got down to it. And after a lot of discussion and reassurance that we all love each other very much, except Other Matt, who barely knows me, but seems all right, we came to a decision. I will walk Jenny into the church and pass her off to Jim, who will walk her down the aisle while I get to my seat. Not the idiot. But I think you're looking at this the wrong way. This is your daughter's wedding, not Jim's. So isn't what she wants for the day the important thing? She considers you her family and she wants you to be part of that moment. That's a great honor, and she probably felt extremely rejected when you said no. You have known her for almost a decade. She sees you as another father figure. You're not some rando swooping in to steal Jim's glory just because you're the bio dad. He may even be just as happy to have you on the other arm because he loves Jenny. Then having more people in her life who care about her can only be a positive thing. I would really reconsider accepting her offer if it's still on the table. I think she will be very hurt if you stay firm on your no, and it may do some permanent damage to your relationship.